Welcome to the Mavens Do It Better podcast. And now, your host, Heather Newman.
Okay. All right, everybody, here we are again for another Mavens Do It Better podcast where we interview extraordinary experts who bring a light to our world. And this is a special episode. This is where Annelise Sexton and I talk about Mavens Do It Better. Hey, Annelise.
Hey, Heather. How's it going?
Good. And Annelise, tell everybody what you do.
I am the producer for this podcast. I'm also work with Heather and Creative Maven as a digital marketing specialist, but I've been with Heather and Mavens Do It Better from the start. So it's been a lot of episodes.
I know. So yeah, and you know, we just passed our second year anniversary on October 31st on Halloween. So yay! Totally fun. Yeah. So let's see. I think being in the middle of a pandemic has changed the world of podcasting and the world of everything. I don't know. Do you think there's more podcasts that have happened because everything's gone digital?
I'm sure there's, people have had more time to maybe do that pet project they've had on the shelf for a minute. Yeah. But I mean, the world of podcasts just in the past 5 years, it's exploding. So it's like, I don't think it has affected the creation of, too grandly, but I think, listeners definitely have been tuning in more is what I've been reading.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've seen our own numbers go up in that way, I think, we don't do a ton of advertising and we don't have advertising as of yet, as far as sponsorships and stuff. But I think organically we've seen our growth go up quite a bit.
Yeah, definitely. And like with length of time listened, I think people, I think there was the thing, it was like, oh, well, people aren't listening on their commutes anymore. But it's like, but people are working from home and discovering that they have these moments that they can create for themselves or have it on in the background because they're not in an office. So, I mean, I think it's, their podcasts are meant to be addictive and consumed, so I think they're a good thing. They're a good thing when you got some extra time or some extra quiet, or you just need to fill your brain with something else. That's when I listen to them.
Yeah, I do too. And I think I read somewhere, I think this might've been in July that I read this, but it was saying that podcasting advertising revenue is forecasted to exceed 1 billion by 2021.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm like, we need some of that, by the way. So
yeah. Yeah, if you are interested in sponsoring the Mavens Do It Better podcast.
Do we have a deal for you? Actually, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I don't know. Do you feel like, as far as we do a lot of omnichannel marketing plans for folks and thinking about podcasting as a marketing tool, I feel like I've seen that more so as well, instead of sort of like a lifestyle or, you get the story,
the true crime.
Yeah. The true crime that, serial, like that, all of that it's more people promoting their businesses and their sort of,
their services.
Their services and what they think. I think that's on the rise too.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Like the amount of companies who have the beautiful thing about a podcast is you can start a podcast and you automatically have a blog.
Right. Yeah.
So it's the multiple pieces of content. So I think what a lot of companies are doing they traditionally used blog posts as in content marketing to build the thought leadership and, visits to their site and all of that. And I think like what podcasts are doing is allowing them to be more consistent by creating podcasts where you schedule it out and plan it out. And then bada bing, bada boom, it's also blog posts and social media clips and, it can be really, I think, beneficial to people who are kind of maybe lower on time and manpower to, as a marketing tool.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, we talk a lot about omnichannel and not just omnichannel, but just really like you were saying, like we have like one piece of content really like, it's like getting the marrow out of it. It's like you spend so much time creating something and then to try to just gloss over it and go to the next thing. It's like, even a sentence out of, like, you do that. Will you tell people about how you do that on Instagram? It's so cool. I love those.
So I do it 3 different ways. So with each, how I produce our show notes for each episode is on our website. You'll find is like, I'll pull a quote from the guest, and then I'll explain, because that kind of epitomizes a talking point or a section of the podcast. And then I'll explain how that was discussed in the podcast. And so what I'll take from those is, if I've got, a particularly juicy bite, is what I'll take the audio from that. And I use Headliner to create a little audiogram. So it's like a video that you put on social media. And then if the audio, like, if there's if I can't quickly get the audio, because a lot of times there's multiple talking points that branch off, I'll just take the quote and put it into like an Instagram post or something like that, static. Yeah. And then I'll use each of those lines to promote each episode over and over again. Yeah.
No, and so it's cool to, when we talk about producing the podcast and doing that sort of thing, it's, I sort of also feel, I don't know, when we have guests come from all kinds of different places, it's like sometimes people are like, hey, I want to be on your podcast, or it's, you find somebody interesting, or I find something that's interesting to me or to us or to marketing, or, we have a lot of women on, and we have, different sort of, in tech as well. Yeah. But I feel like once we have somebody on who's a guest, I feel like they're like our people, like there are Mavens Do It Better, tribe. And so one of the things that's been important to us, I think, and is important to me, is that we promote them. We continue to promote them, and we look out for them. And, you do such a great job of that. We talk about sort of how that I'll call it recycling, but like sort of like that remarketing kind of happens. Guest always a guest kind of,
Yeah. I mean, so we're always going to use, we went from doing 1 episode a week to 1 episode every 2 weeks, just due to scheduling and stuff like that. And so what we use to fill in between is I'll reshare podcasts, always going to be tagging people. And what I have in the Mavens Do Better Twitter account is I created a list of podcast guests, and that I go check that list once and just see, like, is anyone doing anything connected? Is it coming up? Is it, to like or retweet, or, like, let's make sure they're doing a big event. Let's make sure we tag them and get in there. And, as like, because we have them on for a reason, because they're doing cool stuff. So let's promote it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a best practice, everybody, is, and it's a best practice, I think, for a lot of different things. I love a Twitter list. We love a Twitter list. Like, we started doing that a really long time ago.
Yeah.
Not just for our guests, but if you are thinking about being a podcaster, or you are a podcaster and you don't already do that, it's kind of cool to have all of your guests in a list, that are specific to you. It helps you be able to follow them, but it also helps people in the world. You can flash that up, that out, right? And then also doing it for events. We do that a lot of time. Like, if I'll be speaking somewhere, and I don't see anybody's created a Twitter list. Annelise, thank you, Annelise. Yes. It's a Twitter list of the speakers. The other thing that does for me later is that I have everybody. So, like, when I go into Twitter, I will go look at my Start Dev Change list. That was an event that happened earlier this year. And I've got all those speakers in there, and they become part of the people who I watch and who I retweet and who I want to hear from on a regular basis. And so kind of over the years, I've got speaker lists from different events, and that keeps me connected to people in a way that's it's easy. It's like, oh, who is that person that I met at the blah, blah, blah? I can go back to my...
Oh, yeah, there it is. Well, it's also like a very curated feed. Like with Twitter, everyone knows it's kind of like based on who you follow. It's just like a lot of information from, especially, if it's your personal account, it's going to be mine is, or when I had one, it was all over the place. Yeah. But, I think with business accounts too, it's like businesses aren't just like single focus. So you're going to want to follow and hear from different things. So if you want a really dedicated feed, like this is some topic that we're really interested in, I'm going to make a list about that so I can see like the latest for, thought leaders and important people in that genre.
Yeah. And for my Heather Newman Twitter handle, which is by my personal handle,
yeah.
I keep coming up against the limit. Like I'm following so many people because I have so many different interests and stuff. And so we've had to make a list, or I've had to make a list in order to follow more people that, and I don't know, there's not a good Twitter cleanup crew anymore.
Well, yeah, because Twitter, I mean, I get it, like to protect their product and protect their advertisers basically is, it's, and to make sure you're not breaking their terms of service. It's like there are these little companies that, try to keep up with that and find the loopholes, but that all the real Twitter cleaners, automated cleaners are kind of gone.
Yeah. I mean, there's still a couple good ones for Instagram, but
yeah. Shh, don't tell anybody.
Don't tell anybody because we'll get them in trouble. Yeah.
Or they'll get taken away because Instagram was like, wait,
what?
That breaks our terms and conditions.
Yeah, completely. So no, that's good. But yeah, I think, I don't know, do you feel like, so we have for Mavens Do It Better, we have mavensdoitbetter.com, which is the website, which really houses everything,
right.
A one-stop shop for all things podcast for this, for our podcast. And we did that purposefully so that, we own the IP that it's on our, I mean, obviously we're on, it's not obvious, but we're on Squarespace. So it is a hosted thing, but for all intents and purposes, it's ours, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't live.
Well, and it also helps with our SEO and all of that stuff, rather than like having a one-page website and then sending people to listen to the episode to somewhere else or to like Podbean or some other place like that. Like a lot of podcasts do it. They'll have a homepage.
Yeah.
And then if you want to go to the episode, it'll go to their podcatcher. And with us, we're like, well, it's going to be like with how Squarespace says it is they take your podcast RSS and treat it like a blog. You create it like you would create a Squarespace blog.
Yeah.
And so that, it keeps it all together. It keeps us in control of everything. Yeah. And, if a service is down, we don't have to worry, just one service we have to worry about, really.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. And I like, we've sort of, I think changed. I was trying to think of some of the big changes we've made in the last year that we could share with people, that we're either things that we stopped doing because of cost or things that we started doing because we wanted to do it a certain way. I'm kind of, was trying to think about that too.
I'm like, my brain for this year is like, by this year, do you mean all of 2020 or just the last 6 months of 2020?
I don't even know. I mean, right? That it's a weird question, I guess, in a way.
Yeah. I mean, I think the big thing for us is, has it, we've really kind of just really did a lot of preparation for backing up and having, like, we had like, this is the minimum turnaround for an episode. Yeah. So you were like stockpiling episodes, which was really like, as the producer and editor, I was like, thank you so much.
Yeah, all right. I will admit that I was coming in really hot with a lot of the episodes and expecting a turnaround time. And Annelise was like, okay, really? But here's the thing, but that's a really good thing to point out is that, you have to build in time for, making sure things are done the right way.
Totally.
And all of that. And so, I feel like also when you're working with a producer, you get to, and Annelise and I worked together a really long time, but this was a different type of, I guess, relationship, if you will, in how, like, she needs certain things, we switched to Zoom, for example, because I used to use which is also called a Zoom, funnily enough, but my Zoom handheld podcast recorder, and I would put it in or plug it in right to the computer, or I'd hold it and the recordings would come off of that, and I would take it and like bring it in and then post it up to, our cloud storage, and then you would bring, right? So that was a big change.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with that change, I mean, we were able to also incorporate video for a lot of the episodes, is because you're recording the audio, might as well take the video. And the nice thing that Zoom does is it gives you separate audio and video files.
Yep.
which makes it really easy. Like I can go take the audio into Audition, clean that up. If there's a lot of edits to the audio, then I don't publish the video because, you know, I'm not a video person.
Yeah. And that's a choice too. It's like, what is this? Is it but I want to point that out. Zoom does two audio files and a video file. Right. That's something that, for others out there who are building technology, like that's important for producing and putting on a podcast, right?
And what it'll also do, it'll do 2-channel audio files. So it'll have your audio file and then it'll have your guest audio file. So if there's like some weird background noise on one, that makes it much easier for me to clean that up, having the 2 channels.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so, that was that. So I think that was a big change. And you also sort of need to decide, is it a podcast or is it a vlog or
YouTube channel? Yeah.
Or whatever. And I feel like for us, this started out as a podcast. It still is a podcast. I think we get most of our folks on, Apple podcast. From that. That's where most people listen, and on Spotify. But it is interesting, like bringing in the video, because it's a different component, right? But we have chosen to put that up on the Creative Maven YouTube channel. Now, I don't know. I mean, we don't get tons and tons of traffic there, I don't think. And we don't drive to that.
We don't. It's like we have the videos and we've got them up there. I think it's not something that we've had the time to focus on and build. So that's like, maybe that's next year, figure out we've got this video. What do we do with it?
Yeah, exactly. And, and that's about creating, YouTube is also a really huge, wonderful place to have a channel and to gain followers and all that sort of
It's the second largest search engine in the world.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you. Like every time I'm like, how do I do this? I go to YouTube. Right? Like, where do you start? Right. So there is something to that about maybe with the podcast, if you're starting out, thinking about where do you want your content to land, right? And are you building, a podcast on the different podcast engines, or is it also podcast, video? Do you have really good lighting, and how do you set things up? And, it's like, I feel like we're professional, but podcasts are casual to me as far as the video. It's like everybody's like, oh, do you have the, and then you should. And I mean, I put on list, of course, but I also feel like it's like, and it's good to have good lighting and all of that, but the focus is really on it being a podcast. But we might change that and tweak some things for next year and put on some bumpers and do some of those things depending. But yeah. It's kind of been interesting, just simply playing with that. And I think that's the other thing, experiment, I feel like we've had a lot of experimentation, on what works and what doesn't over time.
Totally. And I think some of it is just particularly in this year, it's like, I know right around March, it was like the tone of the interviews kind of changed. And we had some ones that we were like, this was recorded in January and it was supposed to air in March, but then we just recorded this one, which is really pertinent to, the protests or the shutdowns and stuff like that. So it's like, well, let's push that one's kind of evergreen. This one's pertinent to right now. So it's like, this year has been interesting in that. And also in how, our guests are telling their stories, because a lot of them, everyone's got their COVID story of how their life has been impacted. And so, hearing for me, the one thing that's been really nice is just, and kind of inspiring, it's hearing the resiliency of people,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that, and people are always seemingly to, want to share their stories and everything. And I hopefully think that that's something as a host that I bring out. And part of the reason people want to be on the show is that we do talk about our life, and the real stuff. And it's not, it's not just it's like, I love was it Proust, questionnaire, but it's, it's not like, it's more of a conversation. But
yes, it's like, we're searching for this soundbite. So if you could just, it's like more free flow. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I was looking up some statistics earlier, and these are some big ones from this year that that are interesting. 55% of U.S. consumers listen to podcasts, so over half of consumers in the United States. 33% of non-listeners don't even know how to access a podcast.
That makes sense.
Yeah, right. 59% of users spend more time on podcasts than social media, which that's kind of interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. And then 80% of users usually listen through most or all of the podcast episodes. Like once you like something,
right,
it tends to kind of get going on that, which I think that's amazing. And that there's 850,000 active podcasts out in the world. So that means there's over 30 million episodes. Like, that's amazing. Oh, I like this one. 40% of surveyed users found podcast episodes are too long.
Oh.
I know. I'm like, okay, well, do we need to wrap it up here?
I know. You got 5 more minutes, Heather, and then we're
right. You gotta. I was just trying to think. Interesting. Older people, what does that mean? Started embracing podcasts. Oh, here we go. Percentage of Americans that are 55 or older has increased from 29% from last year. That demographic in
so they've learned how to access a podcast.
Right. Are they still that 33%? And 54% of users are on Apple, 43% Android. That makes sense. And Apple Podcasts have a 38.2 share in mobile apps. That's kind of interesting. Yeah, I think we're seeing a lot of
we see it. We like our, look at our pie chart. Big chunk is Apple Podcasts, and then you look at what it's iOS. It's what people are listening on for the most part.
Yeah, and there's, I think a lot of companies, there's a couple of paid podcasts. Like Luminary is where you subscribe, and
it's a subscription,
subscription based, and I think Spotify paid like $300 some million to acquire some of the like Anchor and Parcast and some of those. So there's big investments in this area. Just catching the ear of folks. I think that's kind of fascinating. I'm trying to think of what else this year that we changed or kind of worked on. But you're right about the tone, I think, for sure. And I was trying to think of like sometimes like where I was like even myself trying to, like everybody's got stuff going on right now. Like everybody always does, but just we all have the pandemic as the ubiquitous thread, and then with election and all the things that happened with George Floyd's murder and all of it. It has been a wild ride this year in talking to people and what they what comes out in these podcasts as well.
Oh yeah. I think people have for the most part felt like they're a little bit more open. Yeah. Like, because it's also like on our sleeve, because, it's been 9 months of this. We're just like, oh my gosh, so I think people are, you give them that space to let's just talk. Let's talk about your life, your work, what you love. And if you talk about that stuff, the hard stuff comes in. And the frustrating stuff, and how you've dealt with it and all that stuff, which I think is important for people to hear, because, you look at the news and sometimes you're like, oh God, we're totally screwed. But then you hear everyday people just kind of, facing things, and just the amount of, you get the diversity of backgrounds, diversity of people that you've interviewed. I think it's like, yeah, we all get affected by these things, and we all got to deal with them, and, and keep going. And whether we're stuck at home or,
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things we were doing for a while, and I think we're going to decide whether or not we're going to get back to them, is a full transcription of the episodes.
that is something that, we were investing in that. And I think we, a couple months ago looked at the price versus people accessing them. And it was like, well, this is a cost that, if we're belt tightening, as, everyone's done this year, that's a cost that, that we cut.
That we couldn't justify because of the analytics, So, So, I mean, measuring these things is a good idea, and that was definitely expense that we were like, maybe we'll bring it back, but not a lot of people were clicking on it, So,
yeah. And I like that, what we were using an AI based one. Mm-hmm. And then I would go through and then eventually someone else would go through, took it over and went through to go and edit, because AI is not as smart as everyone hopes it will be. Mm-hmm. It would still need to, and I see a lot of podcasts, people just take, the unedited AI transcripts and put it on their site. But I just couldn't do that. I was like, you're not going to do it well, don't do it.
Yeah. Especially when it's usually people's names and stuff like that. It's like, you want to get that stuff right.
Oh, and like if you're talking with someone in the tech field and there's acronyms and, company names, and it just would be gibberish. I'm like, there's no,
Yeah, absolutely. What outside of this one, what are you listening to?
Right now I'm taking a break. I haven't listened to, because I was just getting into where I was like listening to them at night and then just falling asleep during them and not being able to, I do the, for me, a staple is Throughline from NPR. It's just like, because you don't have to, it's non-serial. So it's like an episode a week of a brand new, I'm a history buff. So like hearing about history stuff that as a US citizen, I was never taught.
Yep, certainly. Yes.
I love that one.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, I David Plouffe, who does the campaign HQ, I was listening to that a little bit. And I've, working on, I don't know, with community, I've found a couple of different community podcasts that I really like too. I don't know. I have a ton. The other one, Under the Influence, that one I really like too. That's a new one. That was Wade suggested that, my boyfriend. And so like that one has been something. And we listened to Wait, Don't Tell Me, which isn't quite a podcast, but it's more of a show, but it's kind of, I don't know. But NPR is just, everything about it is still so good.
Yeah.
That's sort of the gold standard in my mind for podcasting and shows.
Well, I mean, technically they've been doing it forever, because if you look at a podcast, it was what a radio show was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't know, like, trying to think of, I wonder what we're going to see, any major changes or things, or if there's going to be more, I don't know, I just think more people are doing it because there's the tools, there's a lot of free tools. There's not it used to be you have to have all this equipment and stuff to do things, Yeah.
Well, what I am seeing though is a lot more fictional podcasts. So rather than, I think that is trending up, and is where people are writing content and hiring voice actors and all of that and producing it that way, rather than like do the book format or a play. It's like, what was that one? The War of the Worlds, where they tricked everyone.
Yeah.
It's like, so it's like, you get to one, you're like, wait, this isn't real. This is I'm so used to podcasts being, strictly nonfiction that,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's kind of a twist when you find one, you're like, oh, this is a story. It's like story time kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I didn't grow up in the radio age, so I'm not used to listening to fiction.
Oh, right. Sure.
Like that. Yeah. Produced like that, I'm TV and movies kid, so.
Yeah, right. Totally. Yeah. I mean, I still love the radio. And I do listen to a lot of NPR still, and but I haven't had a car in such a long time, and I finally have a car again, and I'm like, oh yeah, interesting. That's so weird and cool. Like KCRW here.
Yeah.
I started to listen to that, just in the house, and I'm like, right. Because I remember the radio would be on in my house growing up, like 24/7. And it was usually talk radio, it's WGN actually, because it was, but yeah, just, that's interesting. It's different like that. I also feel like the podcast for me is, it's a way to get away from screen time. It's like an audible book, like listening to a book too. So I love sometimes when I'm just like, oh my gosh, I cannot deal with looking at a screen, but I want to consume something. And it's like, and television is still a screen.
It's because you're watching it either on your I'll watch on my iPad, but wait, that's like a computer screen, or my digital TV, which is basically the same as my computer screen, or
It's still on screens,
Yeah.
So like the podcast is like almost especially if somebody's got like a really lovely voice too. It's like, it's like the learning wonderful sound. It's like like listening to Jason Stevenson, who is so like the sleep guy. Do you know that? Oh my gosh, Jason Stevenson. He's like, he just has this. I think he's Australian, and he's just very much. He's like, and now, you like listen to the raindrops and da 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 da. But yay! But I do with. I'm similar to you. Like listening to them at night, I want to be present and listen to them, because usually I'm really I don't want to use it as a fall asleep tool. I want to use it as a just something that's nice that I do. That's like, yeah. I don't know.
Like to enjoy it, not to. Yeah. I did try some of those go to sleep podcasts, and I just why is this guy's voice so annoying? Like there would be and I like, this does not help me sleep. This just makes me really anxious and angry. So I had to stop doing that.
That's so funny. Yeah. And I think, the biggest thing, number one big thing with the podcast is what, Annelise, for you? Producing it.
Oh, producing it? Lead time, I would say. The more time you have to work with something, the better the end product's going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And also Anna's the stickler for the audio. So
yes.
So no jiggly bracelets and no tapping.
No typing. Yeah. The host does not get to take notes.
Okay. I know. It's like half the time I'm like, I have to do this because I'm like
Heather, just sit on your hands.
Or just gesture wildly in front of your face.
There you go.
It's all good. But yeah, cool. Yeah, I think, for this coming year, I think that banking them, if you will. So thinking about next year, about I do want to get about a bunch of, invitations out for folks to be on the podcast to bank some like we did. I thought that was good. And I kind of kept doing that, and we're doing more now, on evenings and weekends, but that's good because I had to, because of also the noise, the construction and the, that's the other thing, like garbage people, like the blowers and the what. I'm just like, oh my God, I can't even get it. I'm like, can you hear that? And usually people can't, but I can.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what's the most fun thing you've learned from these podcasts? I don't know, something that you were like, that just blew my mind. I don't know.
I'm trying to it's it's so much information. You got to prep me with the questions, Heather.
Yeah, I know. But see, that is a conversation. I don't know, so many people. Our guest.
I really enjoyed the Tony Fitzpatrick episode. Mm-hmm. Just as he felt like it was listening to my dad talk, and he's just real chill and really screw this and whatever, and being an old hippie kind of guy, and but just doing these crazy things. His artwork's amazing, being an actor, doing a podcast with his son, and just I lost, I'm a working artist and there's a pandemic happens, I'll make puzzles. And then he's making money off of puzzles, it's just that was an enjoyable one for me.
The camera too.
And then he ate the sandwich during the interview. Thanks, Tony.
Yeah, it was awesome. It's great about him too. It's that's the other thing. It's that comes up. It's I love John Boutte. He is he's my favorite singer in the entire world that today. And he lives in New Orleans, and Tony is one of his puzzles is based on one of John's songs. And then because that in like those weird things happen in the podcast too, where it's like, what? You know, so-and-so, or you've done such and such. And like, those little nuggets also always just sort of blow my mind that I'm always like, wow. And I tend to seem, I think it's also because of like, well, Allison, who's, you know, dear friend who's been on, Allison Garlock, like she suggests a lot of people too.
Yes.
So, and I'm from the Midwest, right? Though like have lived on the, you know, West Coast for a long time. So we tend to get a lot of Midwesterners.
There is a lot of people from the greater Chicago area.
Yeah.
Who have lived there, or spent some time there.
Yeah.
Like
we get some New York too, but
yeah. But they also did like a couple months in Chicago.
Totally. Right. Yeah.
It does feel like there is often that conversation of like, you know, there and there and there.
We put them in, like everybody's from Michigan, you know?
Yeah.
It's totally funny. That's awesome. Well, to our guests, I just want to say a big thank you for sharing your stories and being on. And you all are just unbelievable people who are these wonderful lights in the world. And, you know, I love sharing your stories and we love promoting what you're doing always, you know? So thank you for being on and really appreciate that. And, and really, and everybody who listens and, you know, gives us little shouts out and shares our stuff. Really appreciate that too. This is definitely something that it's like a labor of love a bit, you know, we don't get sponsored and stuff like that as of right now, but, so it's just fun, you know, it's really fun to do and I really enjoy it. And Annelise, thank you for doing such a great job and being support on so much of it. You know, I'm always like, what about this? And you're always like, I'll figure it out. Okay. You know, and we do, and we've kind of figured it out together, which has been kind of fun. So thank you for the production extravaganza. You know, you do such a great job. So
thank you.
Yeah. Hey, okay. Is there anything that we need to change for next year? Because you can put me on the spot right on the podcast. Anything? What do you think? Any big changes that we need to make? She's like, I don't know.
I know. I mean, I could like throw, you know.
I opened up the worm can.
You opened up the worm can. I don't know. I think, you know, we can, like, for me, it's like, if I got notice, I'm good. Like,
right. Okay. All right.
Throw at me what you will, but just give me 2 weeks notice.
Right. Fair enough. Yeah. Okay. All right. Fair. So I need to make good on the banking a bunch of them again.
Although I would like a pre-recorded intro to each episode. That would be where you introduce the guests.
Okay.
That would
just like a bio intro kind of thing, huh?
Yeah, just like, hey, welcome to, you know, this episode. Today I'm really excited. I had a wonderful conversation with so-and-so. We talked about this, you know, kind of like like little teaser, kind of break into it.
Okay. Well, I can do that. So
that would be good. I mean, you just top of my head.
I asked for it. Okay, cool. All right. Duly noted. We'll do those. Okay. Easy enough. So that's awesome. Funny. See what happens when you ask questions to people on a podcast? You learn a ton. So, oh my goodness. Well, cool. Well, yeah. And I don't know, anything you want to say to listeners and guests and stuff?
You know, what we always love is a little Apple Podcast review. Just give us some stars, type in a few words. It really helps because you put all this stuff out in the world and sometimes you don't hear back. So support creators and keep, you know, whenever you listen to a podcast, go leave a review. It means so much to people. It really does.
Yeah, absolutely. We're always like, yeah, sure. That's great. Yeah, absolutely. Support artists.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of folks, you know, are putting out so much beautiful content right now. And if you do like them, you know, let them know. And you know, it's interesting the with the holidays, you know, there's so many like holiday specials that are happening as well. And things have been happening, right? There's so many things that you can take. And I did get tickets for A Christmas Carol with a friend who is a production that they've done and they're doing. And that's virtual. And that's so definitely, you know, I know when I have moments, I go to the arts, we go to music, we go to podcasts, we go to, all of those things, books and poetry and everything to kind of help us get through. So yeah, got to keep supporting each other for sure. So
totally. Well, especially independent podcasters,
Yeah. Absolutely.
They need it to break through. There's a lot of noise out there. So
yeah,
give them some love.
Yep, absolutely. If you like what you hear, say it. So
yeah.
All right. Well, we'll wrap this up. Let's see. Shall we end with what we normally end with? And you want to go first? We want to share a moment that seats you in who you are today? Your spark?
With who I am today? Oh, was not expecting this question.
No, we always end with this, so I'll have to do it too. You want me to go first? I'll go.
Okay, you go first.
Go first. Let's see. A moment that seats me in who I am today. I think I know. Okay. So I was, and they change, but I will definitely say I was reading a journal from last year around this time, a journal that is kind of like it's a prompt, it's got prompts in it for some things. And so, and I've decided to kind of just go through it again. I like it. And so I thought, I'm just going to keep the prompts, and there's a daily prompt for it. And so I got to November 27th, and I read what I had written and the prompt. And that day it just really changed the course of my life. I made a decision to buy a plane ticket and to go visit someone, and it changed everything. And it was interesting because the prompt was all about taking a risk, and I decided to take a risk. And so it's the Language of Letting Go journal is the book. And that was something that seats me in who I am right now and really changed my direction in my life. So,
wow. Yeah. That's cool. Because I know what you're talking about. So I'm like, that's super cool.
Yeah, I know you do. Yeah, but I decided to take a leap. So
nice.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I mean, for me, it's like general theme throughout my life has been the support of my family. Like that is just like since little, it's like, yeah, you're going to mess up and you're going to screw things up and things are going to go not how you want them. But like, there's always someone there. I come from a larger family, and it's like, there's always someone there, and we're always going to be there for you, really, no matter what. Like I'd really have to be like a really horrible fascist for them to be like, no, okay, we can't. Right. So, and I just recently moved from being close to one family member to being close to another. And it's like, and in this pandemic and like, seeing people almost just virtually, and not having kind of that going through a holiday that, I'm used to doing bigger with family. I think it's like, that's the one thing that really has gotten me through hard times and good times and all that stuff is my family and their support, that no matter what, we're there. We love you. We'll get you through it.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. Right on. And I am very privileged to know your family very well too.
They're good people.
Love them very much and have had many of those holidays together and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, super cool. Right on. See, there we go.
I got it. I was like totally not prepared for that.
Good. We should be these every time.
I know. In my brain did not make that connection. I was just like, it's 4:00 on a weekday. I'm like,
yeah, it's all good. So, anywho, well, cool. Well, thanks for being a guest on with me and wrapping up our second. So,
and I'm just gonna put this one up raw because editing your own voice is horrible.
Okay, fine. Fair enough. Oh my God, I love it. All right. Well, Annelise Sexton, you're a gem. And thank you for everything you do for me. No, seriously, you are. Thank you for everything you do for the business, podcast, and you make so many things easy and beautiful and great. And our clients love you. So thank you. Truly.
Oh, thank you. I enjoy doing it with you. You're probably one of the best boss I've had. So
all right.
Yeah. High fives.
High fives. Okay. Well, everyone, happy day. And I was like, I'm like 2020. Wow, we're all looking for it to be finished soon. So this is going to be our last podcast of the year on for our hiatus, and then we'll get started in January 2021 in the new year. So appreciate you listening and sharing and rating and reviewing, like Annelise said. So thank you so much. And here is to another beautiful day on this big blue spinning sphere. Thanks for joining us. Bye, everybody.
The original music on this podcast was created by Jesse Case.